Hi, we're going to give people about 1 more minute and then we will start our meeting.
Hey, Jake.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Hey, big crowd today. Once again, if you've just joined us, if you could please put the name of your organization or your location after your name. We have new people today and we'd like for everybody to get properly introduced.
Yep. Okay, no problem. You too.
Okay. All right, so welcome to today's Professional Learning Community PLC call. This is the final professional learning community call hosted by KSU JT Tab. The FY25 Brownfields JT RFA is now closed, and this month the professional learning community is looking forward to new training cohorts and graduate placement and is anticipating a new crop of Brownfield job training grantees, which will be announced later this year. Today's call will also introduce the new technical assistance provider for Brownfield job training grantees, Tetra Tech Adapta. Although this is the last KSU JT Tab PLC call, it is not the last PLC call. Tetra Tech Adapta will continue to host the calls for grantees on the same schedule for at least the rest of the year. If you're on the PLC participant list, you received these reminders and links to scheduled events. If you didn't receive a reminder today, please send your contact information to the JT Tab KSU EDU website, and that'll be posted in the links. And if you would like to be removed from the PLC list, please return the email with remove in the subject box. And as always, statements made by KSU JT Tab during this webinar or in post-session notes did not constitute official EPA advice, interpretations, or positions. We're not fibbing, so believe what we say. We just can't endorse products, I guess, is the bottom line to that. We have a lot of people, and given the numbers, I'm going to hold off on introducing or having each of the program people introduce themselves.
No.
Excuse me, if whoever has their mics on in the background, if you could just have them off for a second, because you're bleeding through. Thank you. And so I'm going to just turn it over right now to our benevolent overlord, Matt Washi from the Office of Brownfield Land Revitalization of EPA for some announcements and introductions. Matt?
Thank you for the introduction, Owen. So yes, Matt Washi. I am the EPA National Brownfield Job Training Coordinator for any of those who may not know me. I just wanted to give an introduction and some background information and try to give some guidance on where we're going in the future, as this is the last one by KSU JT Tab. So as you all may or may not know, for the last 20, 30 some years, basically, Mike, Steve, Nolan, especially Mike, they've been doing this technical assistance for us with Eastern Iowa or HMTRI. We've been loving the work they've been doing. About, was it a year ago now? We had Eastern Iowa or HMTRI. They basically just withdrew from their cooperative agreement with us. And we were able to work with our Office of Grants and Debarment and get a waiver for KSU JT Tab, who they took up the gauntlet and they were able to provide us some temporary coverage so we could still continue doing this technical assistance and everything they've been doing to all you. We've been incredibly grateful to KSU for volunteering, for bringing Mike, Steve, and Nolan on and doing all this work. So thank you all. And as of this last month, we were able to stand up a new EPA contract to provide this technical assistance going forward. That contract will go until March, and we are in the process of competing it for a 5-year period of performance. So after of March, we should know basically who that contractor who will be providing the technical assistance to all of you will be in March. So that will be helpful. The way that the contracts office and the EPA worked is kind of a weird situation. So it only is going to be going until March. But with that said, I just wanted to share my screen with you all to show you the EPA page and kind of just show you where to go and how to access all the information you may need. So hopefully you're able to see my screen. This is the homepage, just so you all know. And then if you go to the Explore Grants and Funding, that is going to be where all of our funding is. And then you go types of funding, job training, and then this is going to be our main page that you should be going to, basically, like bookmark this page. This is our new page, and we just basically update it really recently to have all the information you have. Hopefully it's a little more visually appealing as well. But this will be the link. If you have a TA request, you want to click on that link. You'll fill in your name.
The first day hasn't come yet.
Who's ever in the background, can you please mute? Thank you. So yeah, you fill in your name, organization, address, your email. If you're a grant recipient right now, or you recently have been, yes or no, that will just help us to understand your capacity in the past, and then your technical assistance inquiry. And then the Tetra Tech and Adaptive team will get back to you. And that's kind of how we'll start it out for right now. But yeah, this page has pretty much everything that you should need. So the PLC calls will be here. We have the past ones, the recordings to them all linked here. So it goes pretty far back. And then same thing for our past webinars. They are there. The past ones are there. All of our future ones will be there as well. Let's see. And then yeah, we have this eligible training, which is a really good one, especially when you're looking to put together your application. It's a really good one. I always recommend to look at. We have a lot of good examples and some examples of when it may require like specific wording and explanation. And then I think the last one I'll probably share is our technical assistance resources page. This again, we have the inquiry form there for TA submissions. This is where we have the best practice guide that was produced by Eastern Iowa Community College, or HMTRI. And then we also have the link there that's there for now, but again, the place to look for those in the future will be on our PLC page there. So I think that's all I have. Please feel free to explore those pages if you have any questions. Hopefully you know where to go to at least start that. But I think that should be it. I'll pass it over to Blaze.
Thanks, Matt. I think I might be sharing the wrong screen though. Let me get the right one up. Oh, here we go. Yeah, great job on the web pages, and hello everybody. And can you see my screen? Yes, excellent.
Yes.
Great. So great job on the web pages, Matt, and next steps. And during this transition, the plan is that we will keep our web page up that has things, it has a note at the top basically saying that technical assistance is transitioning to the Tetra Tech Adaptive team, and all of the websites that Matt was just showing are here. So in fact, you can email the Tetra Tech Adaptive Job Training folks that are going to introduce themselves in a moment by just clicking on this link. This goes to Matt's new webpage, which is great again. We've got the listing of EPA regional coordinators also on that EPA webpage for you to get to easily. And the technical assistance inquiry form that Matt just showed you, you can also click this and get that form filled out and be off to the races in getting help. Like I said, everything we've done since January of this year is still posted here. So you can get it here for a while. And we think that in several months, once everybody's used to going to the EPA webpage and such. We will take this down because all this content is currently posted there, but still, you know, there's some of the content of the recent things we've done are up here. And also at the very bottom, again, the listing of EPA regional coordinators and the Tetra Tech Adapta folks are here for you. What TAB will continue to do is review job training grant applications when that happens in the spring. You know,
Oh, it's on. It's unmuted. Oh.
yeah, unmuted there. And to find out, you know, who to turn to for that, if you're, say, not in the KSU area, you can go to our contacts page, do a search, say, for, let's say, Alaska search, and you'll see that the Center for Creative Land Recycling is your TAB provider, and you can contact them for help. So we're still here. You know a little bit about job training without the big three experts who I hope can still be part of the mix one way or the other, but wanted to tell you that much and how much we've enjoyed serving in this role. So one last thing I wanted to do before I passed it over to Tetra Tech and Adapta is just recognize Mike, Steve, Tim, and Nolan. For those who are at the all grantee meeting, you saw Mike Senu get presented a nice certificate from Matt and EPA, and I spoke with Matt recently and thought, hey, it'd be nice to recognize the other three guys too, because they certainly deserve it. So in no particular order, I'll just show you the certificates of appreciation that are coming your way. Mike, Steve, Nolan, and Tim, or Steve, Nolan, and Tim, and as well as yours, Mike. We're shipping it. Here's kind of what they look like. You can look at my video thing. We've got them in nice frames here for everybody, and it looks like Santa Claus's workstation right here, right now. But at any rate, we've got one coming to you, Steve, and of course you're great. You've been great all along for a long time, as you can see, since 1994, involved with this work and, you know, specializing in environment safety, workforce program development, and sustainment. So thank you, Steve. Tim, again, in no particular order, your help, I know has been instrumental before you came to K-State, but it's been really helpful while you've been at K-State and helping us get the online webinars and conferences and websites with, you know, both static and dynamic educational content. And it's just really been appreciated. That's how we communicate in this day and age. And you've been a pro at it. So thank you very much for that. And if I can get the last one to come up, Nolan, I really want to recognize you and thank you as well for what you've brought to this. You've been doing this for a long time, and you know, each of you've had your kind of own little area of specialty that's just meshed perfectly. And certainly your heart for environmental justice communities and skill and you know, promoting good public health and public involvement initiatives has really been recognized. So thank you as well. So with that, I will stop sharing and turn things over to Eric Eiseminger with Tetra Tech to tell us a little bit more about moving ahead with technical assistance on job training topics.
Eric, I'll kick things off maybe just to set the stage and then turn it over to you for an intro. But I just wanted to say hi real quick. I'm Steve Michener. I'm the project manager for the Tetra Tech Adapta team, based out of Chantilly, Virginia. Been at Tetra Tech for almost 26 years now, and currently manage a number of different technical assistance and training projects in brownfields communities across the country. So really looking forward to learning more about and collaborating with the job training community over the upcoming months. So As Matt noted and demoed, we've done a lot of work on the Brownfields job training website recently, and hopefully streamlining things a little bit, making the content a little bit easier for stakeholders to find what they're trying to get to. So you're definitely curious to hear any feedback that you have on that, and other improvements that we could potentially to make resources more available and information easier for you all to find. So we're also going to be updating some of the Brownfields job training resources in the future, including that best practices guide, trying to refresh that a little bit, and some other things. So we're really looking forward to getting to work. So I will turn it over to Eric to say hi real quick. And I know we have a few members of the Adaptive team here. They're one of our partners, been working with them closely over the past few years. They're going to be taking the lead on the PLC calls upcoming, and some of obviously the technical assistance as well. So Eric, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. I'm not sure if our other colleague Sherry Weedman's on the line or not, but we'll see if she's on, and maybe let her say a word too. So Eric, I'll turn it over to you for a second.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I am Eric Eisenmenger, and I've been with Tetra Tech for about a year working on brownfield projects. Prior to coming to Tetra Tech, I worked for the state of Kentucky as the brownfield coordinator for a good number of years before my retirement there. I've worked a little on job training grants. I love the brownfield program. I think this is a great opportunity, and I'm super excited to be working on it. I've just got a lot of background that pushes me toward this career path and this program. So I love it, and I'm happy to be able to work with it. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Eric. Is Sherry on? I can't see if she's on. I don't think she was going to be able to make it, but I wanted to give her a second to say hi if she could. Sherry Weedman's another one of our Tetra Tech Brownfields program managers, and does a lot of work in Region 4, manages the TBA program in Region 4. She's worked on hundreds of different projects across the country over the years. So she's a great resource, and very glad to have her on our team as well. So Mary and Danielle, I'm not sure which one of you wants to go first to kick it off on the Adaptive end. So
I'll take it, Steve. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Hashem with Adapta. I'm the president and founder of Adapta. And I just wanted to echo the comments that have been made regarding Steve and Mike and Nolan and Tim and their tremendous dedication and support to the Brownfields Job Training Program. We are working closely with them through this transition and hope to have their involvement in some way going forward. But Adapta is going to be the prime contractor, or I'm sorry, Tetra Tech is the prime contractor, and we are going to be the main personnel staffing the technical assistance and brownfield job training outreach programs. So some of you may be hearing from us directly. We're going to be conducting some interviews and would welcome your input and your comments and feedback on what's been working for you, both in your program and with the EPA program and the resources that you've been provided. So we're looking forward to diving in and helping with this program during our period of performance, and want to thank Tetra Tech and EPA for the opportunity. Both Danielle Getzinger and I have brownfield job training experience and experience with brownfield training programs. We also have a staff that will be supporting us as well. So hopefully you will be able to get your questions answered and the outreach that you need. Danielle, would you like to say hello and say a few words?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I recognize a number of you on the call, so it's good to see you and new faces as well. I'm looking forward to this. Like Mary said, we have experience with job training, or actually setting up some programs right now around green workforce training, and have an extensive team that is hands-on within communities and understands from a nonprofit, government, and an academic perspective what is required. But certainly going to be relying on all of us to get you the right assistance and pull from the great knowledge that already exists within this program and connect you to new resources at EPA. I know EPA is very it has ambitious goals for really strengthening the job training program, and we actually just heard from the administrator in Region 9 that echoed those sentiments and encouraged everybody to be applying and growing this program. So excited to be part of it, and please don't hesitate to reach out and fill out that form and get in contact with us if we can do anything for you.
Thanks, Danielle. Is anybody else from your team on the call?
It's just Mary and I this morning, but they're all listening in at least. So we'll keep it there and get to the rest of the agenda for now. But you'll hear from a whole bunch of us later.
Okay, Benny, thanks.
Okay, I'm sorry, Steve.
I was just gonna say, I'm just gonna turn it back to you, Nolan.
Okay,
Thanks a
thank
lot.
you. And again, we're very optimistic about the Tetra Tech Adapta team and know that they'll be doing an amazing job. They've been involved certainly with brownfields in a variety of ways for a number of years and have deep experience and are as dedicated to the program as we are. And so I think it'll be a seamless transition, and I know they'll provide a lot of value and possibly some new ideas and new insights into how to continue to improve the brownfield job training program. So again, we wish them all the best. On a personal note, I want to thank Blaze and Matt and every other conspirator on the acknowledgement. It's very humbling, but much appreciated. We have a good news, bad news situation. We have well over 50 participants at the moment. And one of the things we used to like to do and maybe continued is have everybody introduce themselves and say a few words. Unfortunately, if we do that, we'll be out of time before we get to any of the rest of the PLC calls. So with apologies, but hope for the future, we hope that people will get to know each other. So if you can, put your name and your organization, even show your face, and that would allow the new Tetra Tech Adapta people to kind of see who you are and where you're from as we continue on with the program. So in brownfield job training news, the FY25 Brownfields Assessment Revolving Loan Fund and Cleanup Grant Guidelines and related applicant resources are now available at www.grants.gov and the OBLR MARC grant application resources. And we'll post both of those web pages to the notes for you. The 2025 National Brownfields Training Conference will be held August 5 through 8 in 2025 in Chicago, Illinois. The National Brownfields Conference is held every 2 years. It attracts over 2,000 stakeholders from government, industry, and communities. And attendees share knowledge and best practices on the remediation and redevelopment of contaminated properties. The conference features a wide range of sessions, workshops, and networking events that cover topics which include workforce development, community engagement, sustainability, and environmental justice. The goal of the conference is to promote the cleanup and revitalization of contaminated sites across the nation. You can learn more about the conference and how to get involved at https://gobrownfields.org. And again, we will post that website to the notes. And again, we know that Tetra Tech and Adapta have a long history with the Brownfields National Conference as sponsors of that. We also think it's a very valuable experience. So if you or members of your organization can attend that, it is one of the premier or the premier activity. And EPA, NIHS, a lot of other agencies, and certainly private industry will be there. So it's a wonderful opportunity for networking, both with other grantees, but as well as seeing what's going on around the country. EPA has announced the FY25 Brownfields Assessment Revolving Loan Fund and Cleanup Grant Guidelines. EPA anticipates awarding approximately 200 grants nationwide this cycle. Applicants are required to incorporate community involvement into their grants and to notify the community that they are planning to apply for a brownfields grant. Applicants should start working with communities early to establish a process and procedures for engaging the community. Associated with these grants are the establishment of partnerships and the engagement and coordination with an EPA brownfields and NIEHS job training programs. The application submission deadline is November 14, 2024. And again, we'll post a website to the notes for people who are interested in that program. Recently, as many of you know, because you attended and many of you know, but didn't attend, we had the National All Grantee meeting, and this year it was a virtual meeting, but we thought it went well. You thought it went well, but to give you the highlights from those are my esteemed colleague, Mr. Steve Fenton. Steve?
Okay, thanks, Nolan. I'm going to just put up the slide here. I just want to run through this. It won't take us long, folks, maybe 5 minutes or so. Let's see. Okay, can you see the first slide? Can you see it, Nolan? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Sí,
good.
bueno.
Okay, okay, gracias. Okay, this meeting that we had that Nolan alluded to in August on the 21st was kind of a departure from some of the meetings we've had in the past where we were more topic specific, looking at program centered topics like partnership development, wraparound services, curriculum, trainings, screening and retention. You know, we usually would cover 2 or 3 of those topics through the course of an all grantee meeting. This time we decided to focus on training resources because we'd had a lot of interest in it, and because we also knew we had a lot of newer folks that had been asking questions about where to go to get certain things. So I'm going to just kind of give you the highlights and run through this. Of course, the welcome and opening remarks, Blaze, Matt, and Patricia Overmeyer gave us kind of a nice welcome and overview. And we did introduce, although just briefly, Mary from Tetra Tech, and talked just briefly about the Tetra Tech and Adapta connection, and they're going to be joining us going forward. Then, yes, yours truly, I got to talk about the first topic, the defining environmental technology, where I basically provided an overview of a National Science Foundation funded project called Defining Environmental Technology, which included a national report and an accompanying chart on environmental occupational careers. We provided a link to that, and it's going to be provided again today when we send out the PLC notes. I also overviewed something called a DACM, that's developing a curriculum, which is a facilitated brainstorming process that's often used to develop training programs and to evaluate training programs. And a lot of that comes out of the Center for Employment and Education and Training at The Ohio State University. So I also provided more information about that. Then we had Kirk Laughlin, who's the Executive Director of National PEAT, who talked about 2 major train the trainer opportunities that some of our grantees have taken in the past. One is a disaster site worker train the trainer program that happens every January, and it's held at the Treasure Coast Training Center at Indian River State College in Fort Pierce, Florida. And then they also do what they call the greatest. It's an Environmental Health and Safety Institute train the trainer at Eastern Iowa Community College District in late April, early May every year. Both these are annual. They're no cost train the trainer programs. And not only are they no cost, you walk out of there with curriculum, PowerPoint presentations. They will also pay your way and provide you a per diem while you're there. So it's basically no cost. Now, I do think they have a limit on the travel up to a certain amount, but almost everybody is able to travel there under the cap. And so that's a worthwhile program through National Peak. Then the National Institute for Environmental Health Sciences Clearinghouse, we covered the resources that they have at the center. Deborah Weinstock is the director of the clearinghouse. Dr. Eric Prashad is a health specialist with NIEHS and is involved in a lot of evaluation work and wrote an impact evaluation for their worker training program. And we provided a number of links through NIEHS, including a link to basically their landing page, also their worker safety and health training program, the disaster preparedness and response training tools page. They also have a building blocks for heat stress prevention training program in both English and Spanish available at this website. They also have a clearinghouse webinars page. They offer webinars on lots of topics, and that link is also available. They also have a NIEHS WTP, which is the worker training program, news brief that they send out. You can get on that mailing list and find out what's coming on, what's coming up next, and that can be very helpful. They also have a curriculum catalog there, so you can go in and look at curriculum for different types of training programs. So overall, a lot of resources there at the NIEHS Clearinghouse, and Deborah and Eric did a great job. We then had Stacy Lobatos from the EPA's Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights Office, who summarized the resources available from the Environmental Justice Clearinghouse. And these resources are available to all of our job training grantees. And we also will provide a link to you as far as that goes as well. In fact, when you go to the KSU page, and I'm going to show the link at the end, you can not only see a recording of the full workshop, you can also take a look at all the PowerPoint presentations that are there, the links and everything. So all the information is in one place. Blaze talked about all of the tab resources that are available, especially highlighting the fact that prospective grantees, aspiring grantees can have their applications reviewed, which is always helpful. We're always reminding folks to do that, and suggesting that, strongly that they always do that. It never hurts to have another pair of eyes look at your application and find out what you might be missing. Okay, then we kind of wrapped it up with a tag team presentation with Zach Schnell, who's from Pamlico Community College in North Carolina. He runs their environmental department there. And he gave a presentation on the emergence of artificial intelligence and its application in job training programs. And also provided an overview of how AI is becoming an important tool in environmental health and safety training programs with demonstrations. Now, it just so happened that at the same time he gave this presentation, he was in New York along with Milady Soto. He was actually doing some training for their staff at Pathstone. And Milady came on and gave the kind of the wrap-up presentation on using virtual reality headsets that they do in their program that allows them to look at different environmental careers, and is very, very helpful. So that's kind of a short summary of the conference. And the link there, the ksutab.org/job-training, that's where all this information can be found. And at least for the next few weeks, you can find Mike, Nolan, and I at these email addresses. Also, actually, at the start of this workshop, Blaze, you and I didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I also intended to use, the last opportunity here to let folks know that we did indeed at the workshop honor Mike for his long time continuous service of over 30 years. I've been very fortunate to know Mike for over 30 years, and it's been an honor for me personally to work with Mike Nolan and Tim. We've known Tim. I was an employee 30 years ago at Eastern Iowa Community College District. I'm involved heavily in environmental health and safety. And Tim Hunter is also a former Eastern Iowa Community College District employee. And we've known and worked with Mike and Nolan for many, many years. And as Blaze alluded to, and maybe Matt too, after being housed at Eastern Iowa Community College District for 29 years, the college decided they didn't want to have anything to do with federal grants. And so the three of us, well, four of us, were actually homeless, I guess, for a while until Blaze took pity on us and invited us over to Kansas State. So it's been an honor and a pleasure, Blaze, to work with you, Kansas State, and also the other TAB folks. And I just want to take this opportunity also to thank all of the EPA coordinators and the project managers from Myra Blakely all the way to you, Matt, and some of the EPA coordinators like, Shanine and Linda Morgan and Alma, they've been around for many, many years. And it's been a pleasure to work with them too. We've just really enjoyed it. And so I just wanted to take that opportunity before I hand it off to Mike to just say that. So that's a summary of the conference. Again, all the links are available on our site at that KSU site. And so they'll also be in the notes. So at this point, Mike, I'd like to pass the baton over to you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Steve. Enough with the accolades. Let's talk about you guys. Let's talk about the grantees for a change here. And what I'd like to do today is talk about, here we are, the applications have been submitted for new grantees. Where do we go in the fall and into winter and into the springtime? So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And then I'd like to talk about some of the experiences that some of you have had in terms of implementing your grants and your path forward in applying for a grant perhaps next year. You've gotten a lot of background about EPA and the awards. Since about 1998, EPA awarded about 350 grants, and these were only $200,000 grants, and they were for a total of 3 years. And some of you are brave souls today that implemented those grants and have been with us through all those years. You had 2 years of training, and then you had a year of wind up, wrap up, finishing your placement, trying to decide how you're going to sustain your program moving on. You were able to re-up for a new grant if you hadn't gotten an award the prior year. But those are difficult years. There were about 14 grantees every cycle. The one great thing about this program is it's an annual program, so it gives small nonprofits an opportunity to get into the federal grant system. And once they're in there, they can expand and they can get bigger grants, and they can use this as leverage to get other grants. And we've had many grantees over the years who have started with us, have never had a federal grant, and have actually moved on to much bigger grants. So as I said, we had those all the way up to FY23. We were dealing with these smaller grants. And then the bipartisan infrastructure bill came along, the BIL bill. And that was a godsend to the job training program. It basically quadrupled the funding that was available. The appropriations for the job training grants went way up. And EPA solicited everyone's opinion of what they would like to do moving forward. And of course, two answers: more money and more time to implement these grants. Grantees wanted to be able to hire people and give them longer than a 2-year horizon on their employment on this grant. So EPA went ahead and they extended the program using the bipartisan infrastructure authorizations, and they expanded in 23. It was the first year we went to those 5-year grants. Very similar to the other ones, except this time you had 4 years of training, and then you had 1 year of grant windup to place your students that hadn't been placed, to look at your sustainability of your program, perhaps to resubmit another grant, to finish your tracking, to wrap things up. So FY23 really marks the first year where we had these expanded 500K grants for 5 years. We had 29 applicants, awards, and with many more applicants, but 29 awards in FY23. Many of them are on the call today. These are experienced grantees, and we had new ones that had never applied for a grant before. Many are holdovers from the $200,000 grants that came along. In FY24, which is this last round, we had 14. The number dropped, and maybe for a lot of reasons. There was a transition. We like to think the transition out of our work in the fall, but there were other reasons. Many of the old grantees that had a lot of experience had already had a 5-year grant, and I think the quality of the applications weren't maybe what they had been in the past, and that's something moving forward we want to work on. FY25, okay, here we are. Those of you here who are suspenseful and wondering what's going to happen here, you made your application on August 15th. You probably already know, or will know only if you didn't pass the threshold criteria. All of you who have submitted grants, remember you've got your threshold, the initial screening within several weeks of the application due date. They do notify those who didn't make the threshold, and then they move on to evaluating the ranking criteria, which you will find out. We call it the long wait in December or January, depending on how the evaluations go. So this time we want to talk a little bit about this time of what you should be doing between now and then. For those of you who didn't pass the threshold, I want to give you a word of encouragement. I'm going to repeat this several times. If you didn't get accepted the first time, don't fret it, and certainly don't give up. Early on when we started this program, we had many grantees who just didn't exactly, it was a new program, and they didn't exactly know how to move forward, and their grant applications weren't that good. And often we had many stories, and probably some people on the call, that their first couple applications were flat out rejected. But they said second, and we've had even the third time, they got it. And how did they do that? Well, in those days, they contacted the regional coordinator, who immediately put them on their list of people that they wanted to nurture and move around, to technical assistance providers such as us. They could introduce them to people that have grants or people that might be able to help them. So if you're one of those people that didn't pass the threshold, or indeed one of those people who don't get the grant next December or January, the first thing I would do is contact the regional coordinator and ask if you could sit down with them and go over your submission, and perhaps give you some helpful hints on the direction you may want to go in. And now I think with Tetra Tech and Adapta, technical assistance much of it will be available. They will be continuing working with you. And there's lots of technical assistance resources. EPA has got a fantastic website and consolidating everything in one place. So there's lots of information there. We have always said in the PLC, sometimes your best technical assistance is from other grantees. And whenever we have a guest at one of our PLCs, we always, and these are prior grantees, we always ask them the question at the end of the PLC, would you be willing to work with other people who may want to talk to you about your program. And 100% have always said, sure, we'll be happy to work with them. And in fact, we've got grantees such as, I would say, Richmond, California, who has helped Hunters Point. They've helped several other grantees get their grants, who now are helping other people. So that's the one thing that I would suggest that the new applicants who just submitted should consider. There are other things, and I'm going to summarize what each of these cohorts should be doing. I just talked about the ones that just submitted. I want to talk about a little bit about the FY23s and the FY24s and the previous grantees and maybe what they should be doing. But there are some other obvious things that you should be doing. You should obviously get your files together and neat and clean, because if you go on to the ranking criteria evaluation, there may be questions. If you have mentioned someone in your grant, and particularly you've given them a name and a phone number, you want to keep close to those people, because there's a chance that the evaluators will call them up for verification or for a question. You want to make sure that you're up on the grant and what you submitted, and anyone that they may call is briefed and familiar with your application, because they may be called. There may be something that they want to clarify, and you don't want to get knocked out because whoever is there, or more importantly, people do change jobs, and whoever replaces them need to be informed about this grant. There are horror stories where people have left, and EPA had a hard time contacting someone to get an answer to a question. So if whoever your predecessor may be, when they come in, just don't leave. Please give them the files, show them what you did, and give them a good briefing on what this grant can mean to your community. I think this is important, again, for those who just submitted a grant. Keep close to your primary partners and get ready, because once it starts, you'll be trying to beef up your partnerships, beef up your contacts for training, to get your program started. Let's turn to those who submitted FY25 applications, FY24 applications, I'm sorry, who were just awarded grants this last fall, or this early January, and have just received authorization to spend funds. It's been a while. You have to, those of you who have done it, have had to go through the grants office to get your program in order. It's not over when you get that announcement in January. Those of you who have been through this several times know that you've got to go through the grants office. You've got to finalize your work plan. You've got to negotiate with EPA and get everything settled. And then finally, you get your authorization to spend funds. And that actually has to have been done for everyone by the end of this month, the end of the fiscal year. So those of you who are FY24 grantees are ready to go. And you're ready to sign checks. You've got your work plan that you did. Now what do you do? And the word to the wise of FY24 grantees is screening, recruitment, screening, and placement. And these are if there's no better advice I can give you, is recruit well and screen even better. And then always keep your eye on placement, even before you start training. You need to throw out as big a net as possible. One of the biggest reasons for failures in job training grantees is to panic, not have a big enough cohort from which to screen, and end up having people enter the program that really shouldn't be there, whether they're deserving or not. you've already thrown the die for an unsuccessful program that will result in low retention, low placement rates, and people dropping out. So the question is, where does that I always like to say you work your program backward. You think about who you can place, then you think about how you would screen them, and then you think about, to screen them properly, how you recruit them. And again, later on, we talk about recruitment strategies, and there's lots of them that the successful grantees have used. Many orientations, as many as possible. And these things are much easier for people in large communities, more difficult for people in rural communities or Native American communities. But you want to get as big a people group to choose from. As many orientations as you can do, as many as reach out, town hall meetings, getting the word out, radio announcements, hyping up the program, getting the community influencers to talk the program up, to have people want to apply for this program, and describing how it's going to benefit their program. This is tough for first year people because you don't have a track record like grantees that have been around for a while. You don't have the advantage of having grantees who can tell everyone else, this is a fantastic program and I got a great job after I finished it. So you're going to have a tougher job. But again, recruit and more recruit. If you have to postpone your first cohort because you're not filling the seats or you feel bad about the class, it's my opinion that I would choose postponing the first cohort rather than choosing a bad class to start off with. So again, that's extremely important. Once you do screen, you do recruit a large enough group, and the larger you have, the better off you're going to be, is now you could be more discriminatory in your screening. And our grantees in the past have used lots of different strategies, which many of you who have been around for a while know about. They include tryouts, where you may get a group together and give them a problem and a team problem, how they can work together to see how they work as a team. Because again, when they graduate and they go into employment, they're going to be working in teams, remediation teams. You're going to get a closer look at the temperament of the people who will be coming into your class. You don't want to make it easy for them to fill out their applications. You may even want to schedule your meetings early. If they can't make it to your orientation meetings or your beginning initial screening meetings, how are they going to get it through the program? So don't make it too easy. The result is to have the best class you could possibly get. Definitely have a face-to-face orientation. You shouldn't have a class where you haven't personally talked to everyone. Some grantees have actually talked to the families and to make sure what obstacles they may be facing in terms of getting their certifications or even attending class. They may have issues with the justice system. And as long as you know that, you'll be okay. You want to make sure that you also coordinate with the Workforce Investment Board. And all of you who have gotten grants, I'm sure you've already coordinated to some extent with the One Stop or the Workforce Investment Board. But I'm not sure if you've all made sure that every one of your students has been checked to see if there are benefits that he may be due or she may be due because of their socioeconomic situation, special situation. You want to make sure that you've got caseworkers assigned to everybody. Hopefully we'll have time here to talk to people like Paul and at Recycle Force, where some of the people have 2 caseworkers. Everyone should have an advocate, and everyone should have someone they can go to if they have a problem. The worst thing you want to see is one of your students drop out for an external reason that could be resolved, and they can't attend class, or they can't make a particular test, or they've got an issue that they're not sharing with someone. So definitely do the one-on-one with them. And at this point in time, I would also suggest that when you're doing that screening and you've gone through your class, and hopefully you've got a large group to choose from, you're going to have some really good students that you're just not going to be able to let into the program because you've got 15 seats and you may have 20 really good candidates. Start that wait list. Put them on the wait list and really encourage them to see if they could wait out till the next cohort, and have that, and encourage them to consider applying for the next cohort. Many grantees also will put them on a waiting list, and when they start training, they'll start with the life skills. Don't start with your core curriculum right away. Give them life skills training and not core curriculum training as much, so that if someone comes into the program and someone drops out, they can come in and still get all of the benefits of the program, even though, and they can fill that seat that has been vacated by someone who just couldn't hack it. So that would be our advice at this point for your 24 grantees. 23 grantees. Now, I'm breaking these down a little bit by cohort, because each of you have a little bit different problems. Now, some of you may say, well, I've got that problem too. I'm a 23 grantees. 23 grantees are good old legacy grantees. Many of them have been around for a long time, as many as 20 years. They know the ropes. They've built their partnerships. These are the mentors. These are the people that we hope we can rely on to help some of the younger people, particularly the new grantees that were just awarded grants and haven't ever done this before, and certainly the people who are applying. Fortunately, there were 29 FY23 grantees, and they've built a reputation that's really good. They've got prospective applicants because they've built up waiting lists of people who couldn't get into their program. The word has gotten out that this is a really good program, and you could make good money when you graduate, and you'll actually have a skill and be in demand. So, Mike, tell me what I can do to make my program better. Give me some ideas. And what I would suggest is, at this point in time, you probably know more than we do about running these programs, but I would suggest it's a good time to look at additional services that you could provide your participants. You're already providing them some life skills, I'm sure, and additional services, but there's more you can do, perhaps. For example, are you providing them with lunch? Maybe you could develop some new partnerships that you haven't thought about for the last 10 years of reaching out to McDonald's or any one of the fast food restaurants to contribute to bringing lunch over every day. Or maybe you could provide an additional service. Now, some of these things now are covered in the grant, but there certainly, if you can get partners that will support activities that you may have included in your grant, certainly get it from your partners and save the grant money for training. So I would keep expanding. I wouldn't let up on your partnership development. The other area I would not let up on is your employer development. People often find out that there are employers in a community that you wouldn't think would be hiring your graduates, but they are. And they're not the obvious jobs that we all think about, but they need people, and they need people with the skills and the certifications, in particular, that your graduates may have. So I would keep searching for that. And of course, those of you who have been around for a while will always say placement is number one. You can never let up on placement. The legacy grantees have a better job at placement because they've built up a cadre of graduates. I would also make sure that your graduates are coming back to your program, either as instructors, better yet as mentors, or even as employers. You may be offering, or you may decide to offer some refresher programs or some special programs for alumni. Make sure they come to alumni nights if you can, or have them mingling with your existing grantees. If you want to increase your retention rates, get your graduates, particularly the ones that are successful, and get them involved with your grantees that are your applicants who are in training, and they'll motivate them, and they'll sell the program. They'll keep them involved in the program because they'll find out that they can get a great job when they've finished, and they have a role model. They even may have a reference when some of these graduates get to know some of your training participants. So those are all additional things I think you never let up, no matter how long you've been at this. I think there's always new things you can do, new ideas you can do, and you can always expand your base of potential employers. So those are those people who have or are getting grants. I'd like to talk, and I'll put them in one clump, is the pre-2023 FY23 job training programs. And also I'll put in that same group people, those of you who are thinking of looking at the FY25 application, which the RFA will probably come out in the June timeframe. But it is not too early to start. Those of you who applied this year found out that you ran out of time, and it took a whole lot longer to develop these partnerships than you thought. This is actually the time. This is the incubation time for applicants who want to apply for an FY25 grant. And that applies to those of you who may be, you may have had grants in the past, and you want to re-enter the program. You may find that it's going to be, it's a little sweeter program. It's a little longer duration. It's certainly a little more money, and you may decide you're going to give it a go. You may have a little bit of an advantage. And EPA's rules basically are, if you've dispersed at least 50% of your grant, you've either closed out your old grant, if you've previously had a grant, and many of the pre-23 people are either closing them out or awful close. If you disperse at least 50% of that grant by when the RFA comes out, which will be about next June of 25, you could apply for an FY25 application, and you'll hear more about that as time goes on. But the program is basically the same for those of you who have used to have those 3-year grants, but there are some changes, and you have to be aware of that. You do have a head start of someone who's never started this program before, and that you probably have a Rolodex with some people. You probably by this time have had some new employees, and that goes for legacy programs as far as new ones. There are always new people coming in, so you may be learning a whole lot of new things. But for aspiring grantees and pre-FY23 grantees, I would start right from scratch. I would start building that consensus in your community, among government leaders, nonprofits in your community, employers. Does it make sense to have a job training program here? And the answer may be no, but they may say, I think it's a good idea. I think we could use one. And you may find employers, if you have got people with these particular certifications, I'll look at them. It's time to go to the next step. You start thinking, okay, can I set up an ad hoc committee? Are there people that I could start thinking about as partners? Am I the one to be the fiscal agent here, or should I have someone who is already submitted grants? Should I link up with a nonprofit that's doing training, and that we could just add this as another component to an already existing training component. These are all things that people should start thinking about. If you don't have a grant, you want to start a program. It's very difficult, not impossible. And we've had many grantees start from scratch. They've never done this before, but as I've always said, it's a lot easier to attach a caboose onto a moving train than it is to build a whole train and get that whole train moving. So start looking around, see what the lay of the land is, if something like this makes sense. And if the answer to each of these questions is yes, 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 let's go to the next step and let's start organizing this committee. Let's get these working groups together. Start talking to some of the brownfields people to see where the brownfields are. Start talking to community people to see where you may want to start thinking of candidates for as far as target communities. And the beautiful thing about it is starting now, you're not committed to anything, but you have plenty of time to let this thing nurture and develop organically, so that by the time you hit next March or so, January, February, you're going to be ready. You really have to start getting serious about writing this application in that early part of next year, because once the RFA goes out, it's just next to impossible. You could write the grant in 60 or 70 days, but you can't develop the partnerships and the employer base that you're going to need to make this grant work. So for those of you who are just starting out, I would highly recommend this program. We've got 50 grantees, I think, that would highly recommend the program. And it's a great program, whether it's a starter program or getting you involved in environmental job training, or just increasing your work in terms of community development. It's a great program. So what I've kind of done, and you could get more detail, and I've put this in a lot of detail, spend more time on this than probably you'd like me to, but in the Connect issue, it's number 49 that'll be up on the website. I go into this in more detail than I've been able to express today. So you could look at that and get a little bit more detail on what each of these cohorts may want to consider moving forward. But I'd like to hear from some of you that have been where I've been talking about in terms of where you're at in the program. And if it's all right, I'd like to call on a couple names to, for example, let's take someone who has been around for a while. Jake, would you like to talk a little bit about what you've been doing? Jake Markowski.
Yeah, sure.
Jake is from Mass Hire. Fantastic program, one of our stars, been around for a great long time and done all the things that he's supposed to do right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I had a feeling you're gonna say my name. I kind of sensed it. Sure. So yeah, from Arborlee, Region 3, we're I've been working on the Brownsville Jobs Training Grant since 2016. And all the things that Mike was saying, I could riff on all of those. But importantly, starting out the partnerships, bringing together all the pieces at once. I put together my partners as a piece, as an interaction piece. Who has the people I need to serve? Which employers need the work, that need the skills from the people that I serve? Which community members have access to those people and also have access to different resources for them? So whenever I'm putting those partnerships together, it's all just fitting the puzzle pieces. And it's also finding avenues of interaction. You know, what can our agency offer them? What can the agencies that we bring together offer each other? So yeah, I could sit here and just brain dump things, but that is definitely an important thing. And Mike, I wanted to say, and also to everyone, I've said many times how much I appreciate you all. And I blurred my screen, but there's a picture of us in LA in my board behind us, standing at the Brownsville Training Grant in 2019. But I'll wrap up.
Yeah, Jake has done a great job and with this program, and and his service to Massachusetts well. I'd like to talk a little bit to Bruce. You know, Bruce Mendelson is an interesting person because he's been there, done that. But Bruce, you just submitted a grant, but you've in the past had a fantastic program. Could you give us some advice on how you went about what you did? I guess we'll have to put your speaker on.
He's on mute. Yeah.
You're on mute.
Yeah,
There you go.
my first time using Zoom. Just kidding.
That's
That joke is so old. Sorry. Really, I say it like every time. So before I even respond to your inquiry, for which I thank you, I want to thank all you guys for welcoming us, that is Mass Hire, and our partners into this group, and for selflessly sharing your expertise, knowledge, and contacts, without which the relative success of our program would not have been possible, and nor would the establishment of kind of a center here for environmental workforce development and job training that I've been building out. So that said, really three things. Number one, I think, and most importantly, is if you can, get your application done early and send it to one of the organizations that offers free feedback on your application. Because as the grant writer, you know, you've seen it over and over again. You start losing your effectiveness, like smelling perfume, right? You smell 3 or 4, they all smell the same, right? So you've written 6 or 7 iterations of this grant. They all sound the same to you. What you want to do is send it to somebody who has not only has expertise on the subject, but also it's their first time seeing it. And the feedback you get will make your application much stronger. It made ours, and I thought I was a good writer. So that's number one. Number two, in terms of recruitment, I would say recruitment and job placement and retention, stack your numbers later. It's going to take you 6 months to a year to get up to speed. So your first cohort, get your most motivated folks, turn them into marketers for you, program outreach coordinators for you, give them a chance to give back to the program, come back and to your next class. And you can also offer incentives for them to bring a friend. That's number 2. Number 3 is in terms of employee partnership or employer partnerships, I would say quality is better than quantity, right? Get 2 or 3 who you know will hire people who have committed to hire, not wishy-washy, but who actually say, yeah, we need to hire 5 to 7 people per cycle, right? Or 10 to 20 people per cycle. And here's what we're going to have them do. Get those commitments early in the game so that you can write them into your grant, because nothing is more convincing than numbers to EPA. What I have found is that the numbers really make a difference, both upfront and in terms of performance. So to recap, number 1, draft, if you can, get a draft done early and send it to somebody who offers free review of your grant. Number 2, stack your successes, or get your most motivated people in early and turn them into like program outreach and marketers for you. And number 3, in terms of employers, focus on quality rather than quantity.
Thanks, Bruce. You know, I have to apologize because none of these people know I'm calling. This is like when we're back in school. I'm just calling on people randomly. But you know, Paul and none of them are prepared. But Paul Salmons and Jim, I definitely want to hear from you because Paul is involved in a returning citizen program, 100% returning citizens. They've just moved. They've expanded their program dramatically. They've expanded and leveraged. They are now involved with the NIHS program. They got started with us, and they've been growing. Paul, could you say a few words and share them with us? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. First, as everyone has mentioned before, we have the utmost respect and appreciation for everything that you, Mike and Nolan and Steve and Tim have done. And we love our EPA Region 5, Linda Morgan, has just really supported us throughout our time with this PLC and this organization. As Mike mentioned, we've grown, and a lot of that has to do with keeping first things first, and that's people. And really looking at how we can serve our people in this environmental justice workplace. And by doing that, we're a reentry, for those that may not know us, we're a reentry program and a reentry employer at the same time. So we have the benefit of training people on the while they're getting paid and working, hands-on experience. We're an electronic waste recycler. And so that way, a lot of people in our population have to make a decision about investing in training or a paycheck, and they don't have to make that decision with us. So that kind of supports their ability to have a job and get trained. One thing I love about what this organization does, it's open source. And as everyone knows, a lot of this knowledge and information in such a competitive marketplace, normally you have to pay top dollar to get this type of access to expertise that these guys, if you combine all their experiences, were, what's that, Mike, 100+ years?
Right.
That's just with you guys, along with everyone else on this call. So we may be looking, up to 500 to 1,000 years of experience.
Well, Paul introduced something to the rest of us. It was, I think your circles now, OAI, I'm not OAI, Cypress Mandela had something like that, but I think you refined it. Cypress Mandela out in California would run people through the streets of San Francisco, and they would get people together and talk about issues. But I think Paul took it a step further. And could you explain your circles concept that you've done with your participants?
Yeah, we have a circle every morning from 8 to 8:30. And it's just based on an old tribal tradition of getting everyone on the same page of what needs to get done that day. But in addition to that, it's a period of affirmation, encouragement, and support. So we bring in our community service providers to our circle so we can have that engagement, our people, so they don't have to go off the clock to get services. So in addition to that, we bring in, and numerous people already mentioned it, but the partnerships, like we know what we do. We provide a transitional job, training, certification, credentialing, ongoing employment support, and then wraparound stability services. And all those wraparounds come through our partnerships. It's one thing getting our people a job. It's another thing providing stability services so they can maintain that job. And so that circle is all part of that. And and they get paid while they're in that circle. And so we have our people that have gone out and gotten that better career job come back to the circle and share their story. And then that creates a pathway to that particular employer. We probably have 3 or 4 pages of employers that we work with, and we have an employment specialist, and their role is getting out in the community and letting them know that we have trained employees in a lot of different aspects of the industry. So now we have people, we have a great relationship with the city, with Department of Public Works, sanitation, arbory, the arborists, just a whole host of things that go well with this type of training, in addition to many other things. But our current funding for this year, year to date, we've had 74 of our participants complete their EPA training at this point in time. And so if you can establish relationships with your financial institutions, they may be able to donate equipment, help pay for retrofits, those type of things that will support everything you're doing, that we're doing as a whole. But again, I think, Mike, you mentioned that the people that come through and really excel in that and have them come back as instructors, Mr. Query, Jim Query's doing a fantastic job. And he's one that fully immerses themselves in training and everything that we're doing about. So we're extremely happy for him to be part of our team, and he's just taken it to a whole nother level in the training aspect of what we're doing at Recycle Force. So other things for new people coming into these grant cycles is, if you can, and if once you get your infrastructure support, stack the grants if you can, and that way there's not those big gaps in between grants. So and those call for really tough decisions. So if you can stack grants to minimize loss of, let's say, key instructors and personnel, that will just help that program run even smoother over the long haul. And we'd be more than happy to go over some of our experiences with people if they should desire that.
Recycle Force is one of those groups that they started small, but have grown, and now they've got this top-notch trainer. Jim is fantastic and growing in leaps and bounds. Anybody else would like to say something before we close? We would like to close, but anyone would like to share their experiences? I'm sure you're going to have time in the coming months to have guest speakers and to do what we're doing today. But it certainly was nice to hear from you, and certainly I apologize for calling you all on the slide just like that, but it was good to hear from you. But I'd like to make some closing remarks, and then anyone who would like to say anything can just speak out. Another thing we do is we usually don't raise hands, we just speak out. So if you have any feelings, just go for it. But from that first brainstorming meeting we had in the old post office, this is about 400 grants ago, we came to the conclusion that workforce development in underserved communities was going to be a learning process. I think we all realized we weren't sure what we were doing, and we were just going to develop this program as we went. And as we went along, we kind of held on to that idea of exchanging ideas and forming a foundation so that those who came after us could build on what we were doing. Here we are 25 years later, and the PLC is still going strong and sharing some new recruitment strategies and placement strategies that maybe current grantees, the new grantees can learn from. I'm really happy that PLCs are continuing, where programs with common goals can learn and exchange ideas. I think I speak for Steve and Nolan and Tim that it really has been great to be a part of Brownfield job training. And I really want to thank all of you for letting us have this great opportunity to spend some time with you. Nolan, Steve, Tim, would you like to say anything to the group?
I'll go last. So I guess Tim, we haven't heard from Tim in a while or at all.
Tim has made everything work. Tim is the guy in the back office who makes these PLC calls work, and it's amazing how many times we just rely on them for everything. Tim,
I'll
thank
just-
you.
I'm just a background guy here, but I will say one thing about these three guys. These guys are awesome. I mean, just watching these guys work and talk and just all their experience they have, it's just been a pleasure to work with these guys, and gonna miss you. Steve.
Well, I think they heard from me earlier, and again, thanks for the acknowledgement, Matt and Blaze. That was really nice. We really appreciate it. And as Mike said, really, it's everybody here. It's all the grantees, the coordinators, everybody working together. It's just been a lot of fun. And I know you're in good hands now with these folks from Tetra Tech and Adapta. So good luck to all of you going forward.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do a shout out. So if I butcher your name, forgive me. But we didn't have a chance for everybody to introduce themselves at the beginning of the meeting because of time. So I'll try to see how quickly I can do this. So Rianne Riggles and Ann Pedro from Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes, Hannah Tew, Mary Mann from Workforce Alliance, Paul Conger, Jake Markowski from Arborlee, Kermit Snow from Fort Belknap, Jessica Guzman, Sherry and Libby Cornell from Honeybee Strategies, Bruce Mendelson, the Counseling Center of Ohio, Iris Colon, Kelly Grospich from Lorain County, Dayal Fomokong from Albuquerque, Matilda from Tennessee, Jerry Lyons, Jim Query, Jason Kennedy, Paul Salmons from Recycle Forest, Alan Lamb from Workforce Development Board, Candace Hatch from the City of Pittsburgh, Sarah Barcombe, April from Zender Environmental, Elena Luttrell, Rosalind Kiger, City of Austin, Julian McCrary, Chris Harrell, Ed Kelly, Susie Lombard, LeBombard, Karen Govin, Kim Kelly from SWA, Joy Britt, and whoever I missed. Thank you. You are the people with boots on the ground. You're doing God's work. You're the ones running these programs. You're the ones that this nation depends on. I want to thank Matt Washi, all the EPA regional directors and brownfield job training and environmental justice coordinators in the EPA offices, certainly Blaze Levin and the TAB coordinators, our new Tetra Tech Adapta partners. I have to thank Mike, Steve, and Tim, my partners in crime here. And again, to all of you, what you do, as I've said before, is extremely important. You provide the skills and self-confidence that enable and empower individuals to be problem solvers in their own communities. So I urge you to continue to look forward. Our nation needs this, our communities need this, our people need this. And so you do God's work, and God bless you for that. And I thank you for the opportunity to have worked with all of you. And with that, I think I'd like to stop the recording, but people can hang out as long as they wish to.